the mask?
Adrian.
Oh, it's a nice one. Oh, you got a nice mask too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, everybody has the mask this morning.
Yep.
Oh, you got the mask too. Adrian's mask? Pardon me?
This one's blue, those ones are pink.
Oh. Yeah, I guess I can't tell that. Have fun.
Yeah.
Honey. Good Monday morning. We are out picking up all the, I call them scraps. We have all the honey boxes in now from the main yards. We are bringing in, you know, just the boxes we left out to collect the last little bit off the nukes, and I have another 10 main yards. We have a couple boxes there just to collect that last little bit of honey as we took that second pull away. So I don't expect a whole lot of honey to be coming in from now on. We'll be bringing in partials, but who knows, maybe they might surprise us. But what I'm finding, I'm being surprised the other way. We're in our first nuke yard here, and I'm just looking down and these girls are hungry. Now we put 2 back on this yard just because there is a heavy honey flow when we took that honey away earlier, and they had actually filled both these boxes up right full of honey, which is positive. But there is absolutely nothing out here. I'm in a different municipality right now, a little ways away from my home yard. This municipality sprays its ditches. There isn't as much, you know, flowering forage within the pastures or the ditches, or there isn't a lot of trees being left in this area. A lot of this land can be improved and farmed, so we're starting to lose a lot of the bush tree lines, a lot of that natural aspect of the countryside, and that is certainly showing in these hives. I'm poking down into the honey box to see what's going on. These brood nests are practically cleaned right out of food stores. They've consumed everything. The nests are pretty dry. They're not going into starvation because of the honey up on top here, but they're pulling this honey and they're consuming it, they're using it. I'm looking down, we'll just pull a frame here. You can see they're nice and fat. Once filled right up with honey. Pretty sticky, I just gotta loosen it off here. So pull it up. You can see there's still honey in here, but all the outside, the rimming of the honey stores is all being consumed. They're either bringing it down or they're outright eating it because they need the food. So we got to make quick work here to be able to, you know, capitalize on this honey so they don't use it all, and then provide them with that high quality syrup just to hold them bay and to further develop them out into the fall here. This yard is a little bit different than the rest of my apiary, closer to home, where we have a little more in the ditches, we have more trees, more sloughs, you know, have all these little pollinator plots around, which is providing my hives with just a continual, you know, refresh of nectar every day, which is extremely important. So then they don't have to dig into reserves. These girls have nothing like that around, so once those flowers quit blooming, they have to keep developing, so they just to start tapping into the reserves they have here. And they know that's not a good sign because they need the reserves for, you know, winter is what they're storing it for. So they're kind of pulling back on their nest just a little bit. I'm looking down there and they're still actively brooding. It's just, you know, not at the same rate as the rest of the apiary that has that continual nectar flow coming in. So that's the problem. That's one of the reasons why I'm promoting natural flowers and everything around the countryside, is to provide that natural refresh of nectar coming in. And that at its own is probably the most important stimulant for a honeybee hive to continue development, is that natural food coming into the nest. We can kind of mimic that with syrup a little bit, but that natural pollen, the natural nectar coming in, is one of the main ingredients to energize that queen to continue developing out that nest. So these guys have slowed down a little bit. Hopefully I can kind of spark them up just a little bit with some syrup coming in and some protein patty to put on them. They're lacking just a little bit of that protein also as compared to the rest of my apiary. But we'll just, you know, it's the end of August, so what I'm seeing in there is a very well developed brood nest. So they do have that winter nest kind of locked in already. It's just we want them to push that as far as we can into September, get them into September, push them into middle September, get that brood nest in there so we have some real young bees going into winter. But at any rate, that's what I'm seeing. We have to be a little quicker. This week we should have all the rest of this honey, all the scraps off. We should have everything with feed on, and then we got to focus our attention directly down to doing a real strong assessment on mite counts. I've been doing random samples and I'm not finding any actually, and which is positive, so it's kind of relaxed me to, you know, carry out my my plan. But I want to do a real thorough assessment here after we get caught up with pulling in the boxes, just to make sure that I don't get caught off guard, because if there is an increasing mite count in these nests, I want to make sure to take care of that while I still can, while the weather is favorable to provide a treatment. This time of year we have to be on our toes. We can't be surprised by these, you know, external factors that come into play. On to our second yard of the morning. Same setting 6s, and I'm looking at streams of pollen coming in. These guys are, you know, 10 miles away from that other yard we were at, and we're back in my municipality here, and we have natural stuff growing. We have sloughs, tree lines, bush. The ditches aren't sprayed as much, and we're seeing natural pollen coming in, whether it be from just the weeds in the ditches, or, you know, just the natural plants, goldenrod, the weed like sow thistle, clovers are still out, alfalfas, all those plants, you know, they all contribute together. And I've not only noticed the pollen coming in, but I'm also noticing that the nests are not as dry as that last yard. Down around the brood here, we're still maintaining that open nectar rim. You know, we have the stored honey around, we have more pollen in here. We have that open nectar around that brood nest, which just shows if that nest is properly nourished or not. It's nice and wet. We have honey up in the boxes, and we don't have anything up in the boxes being pulled down to the bottom. So just a totally different dynamic going on in this yard because of that stuff coming in. Natural forage, that's what it's all about. This time of year is extremely important. More important than probably any other time of the year. This is when we set up this nest, and we need the development of this nest just to continue on as far as we can get into fall. Well nourished, you know, nicely developed little nests. So we are adding syrup to this yard now that we've pulled the honey from all these colonies. We have to make sure that we don't starve them out, because we're taking the resource. So we're dropping some syrup, and they'll be getting pails as soon as we strip these honey boxes off. There's not a lot in here. These boxes, maybe 10 pounds of honey up in the top. 10 pounds that we will take as we proceed on stripping the whole apiary down. So I'm taking a page out of the book of Bob Beanie, and what I'm doing is I want to put escapes into these units. These are my 5-frame nukes. 2 5s are sharing space up top. So I have 2 separate units here. What I'm going to do is, well, what I would do originally is I'd put an escape underneath each one of these singles. And I was figuring, well, why don't I try a little trick that Bob Beanie does, and instead of, you know, using twice as many escapes and using twice as many covers to be able to take this honey off, why not drop this box on top of this one, have the escape go down into the both, and then see how the bees all sort themselves out. And I don't see why it won't work. This time of year, there's a full box of honey there. There's not as many bees right now as there was last week. That huge summer force is kind of dwindling off, and we're more or less seeing the winter nest, you know, the fall type nest establish itself here. So there isn't this huge mass of bees that I'm driving down into these little 5-framers. And I think I'm going to hinge on that fact and just see how it works. Well, 5 frames are in excellent shape. You got a little bit of honey there. Got 2.5, 3 frames of brood. Very pleased with that. So I'm closing these ones up completely. So these ones are completely down, but I'm going to take these 2 units, a box of honey, and I'm going to push both these boxes down into these 2 units. And see how everything sorts itself out. There's not a whole lot of bees in here. These are boxes full of bees, or these are boxes full of honey all the same. The thinking is the bees will, you know, they'll mingle. I do a lot of mingling anyway. This whole yard is a mingle anyways. They're going to mingle. We have syrup set out. These hives are going to spark up into foraging. Processor bees will start, you know, energizing this nest, get this whole cycle going. Empty these bees out of the top box, and in a sense, as they go out and forage, they should sort themselves out back into where they originally come from. So is the theory. I guess we'll find out. We'll see if these 2 hives end up bearding and those 2 over there are left a little shy. In a lot of ways it really doesn't matter right now. The important part is making sure there's enough bees in the box to be able to maintain the winter nest that's being established. Because a lot of these bees, a lot of these forager bees are expendable right now anyways. But it's just curious, I just want to see, just testing out one of his ideas is one of the best things about interacting with people all across the world, the different parts of the country, and just observing different techniques from different beekeepers and seeing, you know, pulling little bits and pieces from everybody just to help integrate into my own operation here and improve my own management. So we'll come back in a couple days and see what's up. Man, do I need a haircut. So this morning I had an interesting phone call. The Minister of Agriculture called me and wanted to talk about the approval of our tech transfer program that the Manitoba Beekeepers Association has been working on for the last 2.5 years or so. This tech transfer program is one of the reasons why I got involved with the Manitoba Beekeepers Association. Just feel that our industry needs more support, and just, you know, we need to be able to hinge government and society to be able to bring services to Manitoba beekeepers to help us, you know, adapt to the changing landscape, right? All goes with my narrative. So the minister called me and wanted to congratulate us for the great work that we have done to establish this project, and he wants to make an announcement of the funding through the media and such, and he wants to come out to one of our bee yards to do this. Blaine had come out to one of our Manitoba Beekeeper Association field days, 2.5 or so years ago, and I actually gave him a bee jacket at that time because I had him hold a frame of bees up for a photo op and all this kind of stuff, just to take a picture of him. He wasn't the Minister of Agriculture at that time, but just to take a picture of him and, you know, holding a frame of bees and all this kind of stuff. just translates really well. So I told him, well, you already have a bee jacket, so this is perfect. So it looks like beginning of October, we're going to have him come out to one of our bee yards, and we're going to make the announcement of the funding for our tech transfer program, which we call the KRTP, Knowledge Research Transfer Program. That'll be Manitoba's equivalent to a tech transfer program. So like every other province across the country and many jurisdictions down in the States and worldwide, now Manitoba has a tech transfer program, and we are quite excited. And little old me had the Minister of Agriculture call me about congratulating the association on our achievement. That's pretty big for me.